Good afternoon, Robert Scribbler. It is July 18th, 2018. Thank you for joining me for another climate change and clean energy blog. Now, for this segment, I'm going to provide a second part to my exploration of electrical vehicles and why electrical vehicles are so important for the clean energy revolution. But before I do, I'd like to clarify a couple of statements that I made in the first video. The first is that there are 1 billion, not 1 million, internal combustion engines in total around the world today. And so, this 1 billion population of internal combustion engine vehicles is one of the primary contributors to carbon emissions and human-caused climate change due to the fact that it's linked to fossil fuel burning and enables mass fossil fuel burning, which is also enabling a significant portion of the climate crisis as we see it. Which is why electrical vehicles are so critical, because they provide the potential for mass reduction in that carbon emission, and unless vehicles themselves fall out of use on a mass scale, and unfortunately, unfortunately, if you are an environmentalist, these vehicles are not seeing reductions in sales, and there are no major trends in vehicle use reduction. So if that's not going to happen, if you're not going to reduce vehicle use on a massive scale, you need to transition to electrical vehicles on a massive scale. And that's basically what we're looking at here. Now, for this segment, I am going to talk a little bit about wells to wheels emissions, and in particular, the carbon cost of producing vehicles. And the reason why I'm going to talk about this is because this is often an area that fossil fuel cheerleaders tend to use to attack electrical vehicles, because it's very difficult to get rid of the total carbon cost of producing an electrical vehicle. Now, the total carbon cost of producing an electrical vehicle is far less than the carbon use that is replaced if you're switching, say, from an internal combustion engine vehicle to an electrical vehicle. But this fraction is not insubstantial, and so I'm going to talk about it. But before I do, I also want to just say, as a basic reference point, that the carbon cost of producing an electrical vehicle and a fuel cell vehicle, an internal combustion engine vehicle, and a hybrid vehicle, all of these carbon costs are roughly equivalent. Now, for lower materials vehicles, the carbon cost is going to be a bit less, and for higher materials vehicles, the carbon cost is going to be a bit more for production of those vehicles, but overall they're roughly equivalent. Now, people talk about the carbon costs of vehicle production as if they're a fixed entity, as if that's something that we can't improve as well. And that's just simply not true. There are a number of methods that we can use to reduce and substantially reduce the carbon cost of producing vehicles. And the first of these methods is to link manufacturing to renewable energy, meaning that the energy we use to manufacture vehicles should, instead of being coal or gas or oil-based electricity generation, instead transition to wind and solar and battery storage from wind and solar, if we're going to reduce the net material carbon emissions cost of producing an electrical vehicle. So if we have wind and solar mated to manufacturing facilities, as we see occurring here with the Tesla Gigafactory, then the carbon cost of producing a vehicle goes down. Now, one other way that we can reduce the carbon cost of producing an electrical vehicle is to reduce the carbon cost of producing materials like steel. And traditional methods for producing steel have a high carbon cost, but you can reduce that cost by switching away from thermal coal-based steel production to electric arc furnace-based steel production. If you switch away from coal burning in steel production to electric arc furnace-based steel production, then you can reduce the carbon cost of steel by approximately 75%. Now, in addition, you can, so steel itself requires a certain amount of carbon just for the material. And oftentimes this comes from coal burning. But you can also replace that need for carbon with biomass. And so if you do that, you reduce the carbon cost of steel production even more. And that's another avenue in which you can reduce the carbon cost of vehicle production, because steel is a big input. Now, one other method of reducing the carbon cost of vehicle production is to reduce the carbon emissions from transporting materials to the factory. And here's one way you can do that. These are some examples of electrical road-based freight transport, and electrifying road-based freight transport reduces the carbon cost of transporting materials to the factory. And if you can also reduce the carbon cost of say, for example, ocean shipping and aircraft, then you reduce the net carbon cost of vehicle production as well. So those are three major avenues that can be pursued in reducing the lowering the carbon cost of vehicle production. But I just want to be clear that the carbon cost of vehicle production is far less than the carbon cost of using gasoline and diesel in vehicles over time. So now I'm going to flip a bit to some of the things that are occurring in the present day. And it looks like we don't have much time, so I'll be brief. So today, Lexus CEO says that electrical vehicles are not yet ready for prime time. But he's wrong. And the reason why he's wrong is that electrical vehicles are actually starting to take up a big portion of his market share, meaning the premium electrical vehicle market. And we can see that if we just look at electrical vehicle sales like Tesla and compare it to Lexus. Now, Tesla's not selling as much as Lexus yet, but it's getting there. Tesla's presently selling more than 11,000 electrical vehicles in the US market in June. And this compares to Lexus sales of 23,750. Now, even though that's less than half of present Lexus sales, it's a large portion, and it's growing very rapidly. Tesla sales more than doubled from June to June of 2017 to 2018. But meanwhile, Lexus sales are going down by 2.6 on a volume basis year on year. And so what's happening is, because of mass electrical vehicle production, traditional automakers are feeling threatened. And that's one of the reasons why you see these kinds of statements, which are contrarian and counterfactual statements coming from traditional automakers who are tied to internal combustion engine-based vehicle production. So it's all more so about trying to defend the legacy market than about talking about actual facts. Thank you for joining me, and I'll be chatting with you soon.